So when you hear, oh, it's a Honda clone, don't be like, oh man, you know, it's not the vape industry, which 90% of the time, the RDA that's made by the manufacturer you love so much and the clone RDA is made by the same company. What? I don't care. Go ahead. What are you gonna do? Come at me, bro. Hey everybody, it's your boy, internet sensation, Gabe. Hi, how you doing? First things first, welcome to my California recording studio presented by Arts One Entertainment. And for the first time in my 16-year music career, I'm actually opening the doors to my services to the general public. So if you need recording, mixing, mastering, instrumentals, beats, whatever you need, I'm able to do it here and make your musical project a great success. There is an email address down in the description of this video. Get in contact with me. That's not what we're talking about today, but I did want to make you aware that my services are now available to the general public for the first time since I've been doing music, which is a really big deal. So this is a question that I have gotten asked quite frequently, actually, since I started making motorcycle videos, is you guys wanted a review of my motorcycle collection thus far. Now, if you're unfamiliar, I come from a motorcycle family. My family owns a motorcycle shop back east, and I wheel and deal motorcycle parts on my website, squid50.com. So if you need bike parts for whatever bike you have, I'm 90% positive I already carry it for you on squid50.com. But if not, get in contact with me and I can carry whatever you need. Although I come from a motorcycle family and I have a background in working on motorcycles, I myself have just started my journey as a motorcycle rider. And what I mean by that is actually owning my own bikes, not just riding other people's bikes. So today I'm gonna talk briefly about the bikes that I have owned, my thoughts on them, would I recommend you pick them up, and you know, kind of the pros and cons of my experiences of them, and then I'll give them a rating. So without further ado, enjoy this commercial from Budget Vapors. I'm sorry, I have to keep the lights on. You boys got bills to pay. I gotta buy more motorcycles. Click over to budgetvapors.com to get some of my most favorite flavors in the entire industry for 15% off using my promo code GabeSentya. When you use my promo code over on Budget Vapors, you can get 120 milliliters of premium e-liquid for just $8.49. Also available on budgetvapors.com is my juice line. The Light Designs liquid line is available in 60 and 120 milliliter bottles. Both my juice line and the many delicious Budget Vapors flavors are developed in a high quality lab down in Florida. When you pick up my juice line or use my promo code, it really helps keep the Light Designs program going, so thank you all so much for helping support the channel. I really appreciate it. Sorry if you can hear the noise from the other studios. There's this dude in the studio across from mine who is so loud all of the time, just all of the days. All right, so my first bike that I have personally owned, I wanted to pay my dues and work my way up the CCs. It was the 2018 Amstar Nostalgia. This was my first bike that I actually owned. I was so excited about it. I overpaid for it, I think. In retrospect, I probably paid a little bit too much money for it. I broke the main rule is I saw it and got really attached to it, and then I just paid, you know, I only talked him down I think 20 or 40 bucks. I did not do good in that deal. But when I sold it, I ended up making a profit, so that's good. I sold it to a really cool guy, and we kind of became friends, and then I'm not sure if he died on it or something, because he kind of disappeared. Hopefully he didn't die. I don't remember his name. I think it was Tanner or something like that. Tanner, if you died, sorry bro. Rest in peace, homie. The Amstar Nostalgia is a Chinese motorcycle based on the CB50 Honda Cafe Racer thing. I can't remember the abbreviation off the top of my head, but it's based on that. It's a Chinese mini motorcycle. It has a 49cc engine, which puts it in a different bracket of registration, meaning that you don't have to have a motorcycle license to drive it. You only need a driver's license. However, in the state of California, you do have to register it. I get that question really frequently. You are supposed to register it. I'm not saying if you buy one, don't register it, but at least here in LA, no one really cares about anything. The M-Star Nostalgia was great. It was a great little bike. Mine was kind of beat. Mine was really, really kind of beat. The previous owner was a younger guy who used it as transportation in college, and he lived right by the water, and it got a bunch of like ocean rust on it, which was a bummer. It was very rusty for a bike that was a year old at this point. I got it in 2019, so it was only a year old. It was cool. It runs a clone version of the Honda GB engine. I believe Zondag makes it, which is awesome. It's an awesome engine. Don't be afraid of Chinese bikes. So right off the bat, I bought it close to Rancho Cucamonga, like way out. I think it was by Rancho where I picked it up, and I drove it 2 hours from Rancho at the time I was staying in Torrance. When I first got it, I believe the maximum speed was like 40 miles an hour, maybe 35, around there. It wasn't very fast. It had a 4-speed semi-automatic transmission, which means you could still shift gears, but you didn't have a clutch, which is incredibly annoying. I did a lot of modifications to that bike, and that was kind of the first bike that I got parts from my website, Squid50, and started modifying and making videos about. I didn't end up making as many videos about that bike as I wanted to because I had a major death in my personal life, and I took some time off from making videos to grieve and stuff like that. And so at the time of when I first got that bike and when I got my next bike, there wasn't a lot of content about building those bikes, but I ended up doing a lot of work on the M-Star Nostalgia. I did new tires front and rear. I did a Michelin up the back. Michelin, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. And then I did a fat Golden Boy up the front. It's like a dirt bike tire. A lot of people use them on cafe racers and dirt bikes and stuff. It was super cool. However, I had to take the front fender off because it wouldn't fit. But I broke down twice with that bike. Both were tire related things. But other than that, the engine was super strong. I ended up making it super fast with a racing CDI. If you change over to the racing CDI, it wants to be more in the rev range as opposed to just kind of chilling on it. You know, it wants to be driven a little bit harder in order to get the most out of it. I also did a new air intake, and I got a new carburetor for it. But I sold it before I got a chance to install the new carburetor, and then I did some more work on that as well. Felt like riding a mountain bike. It's around the same size as like riding a mountain bike or like a beach cruiser bicycle, only with a longer seat. So my girlfriend fit on the back just fine, and the two of us went all around LA and went on a bunch of great adventures on a reliable little mini motorcycle that got 100 miles to the gallon. It was awesome. It was an awesome bike, and I actually want to get another one. One of my main reasons that I sold the bike is because of the clutch stuff. It had a semi-automatic clutch, which means you just go down. And so with my passenger on the back, as you're coming up to a stoplight, you are downshifting, and it's like very jerky because there's no way to like smoothly clutch in and then go down your gears. So it's like very jerky as you're going to a stoplight, and downshifting and upshifting. You know, I got the hang of it towards the end of my journey with the bike, but I really wanted something with a clutch, and I wanted to continue my journey going up in CC. If you are thinking about getting an M-Star Nostalgia as your first bike, I would highly recommend it if you live in a urban environment. If you live out in the countryside, maybe, I don't know, maybe, because it's not very fast, but you do get 100 miles to the gallon, but you can't take it on the highway. So if you live in an urban environment, 2 thumbs up for the M-Star Nostalgia. I believe you can get a brand new one for like 1,500 bucks, something like that. I paid 900 for mine, and mine was beat, and it had like 1,500 miles on it, and I overpaid for it, and that was a big mistake, but I learned. Next, motorcycle. Have you guys missed these videos where I sit here and ramble for a long time? I haven't. I tracked down a 2019 Boom Cat 125 or Boom Retro or BR 125. It goes by like a bunch of different names. This is my new bike. This is a 2019 Boom Cat 125 4-stroke. This 2019 Boom Cat only had 2 miles on it when I just bought it. 2, count them, 2 miles. Now it has 17 miles because I just drove it back here. But this is the new ride. It is completely unmodified, 100%, which is really cool because it's a reliable, brand new platform for me to play with and make really crazy. I'm gonna make this into like a really cool calf racer style bike. I'm pumped. I'm really pumped on this. Essentially what it is, it's a 125cc version of the Amstar Nostalgia with a few minor differences. There's a few cosmetic differences, and like the handlebars are different and the headlights a little different, but essentially they're the same frame bike, just one of them has a 125 and a full manual transmission, the other one has a 49 and a semi-automatic transmission. Oh boy, get ready for a headache. Okay, so the Boom 125 was a nightmare to own. Before I go any further than that, the Boom 125 is a good motorcycle. I get asked all the time if I would recommend you pick one up. I would recommend you pick one up, but don't buy one from a certain dealership in Simi Valley, because oh boy, all of my problems with this bike stem from that. So I picked this bike up from a really, really nice young man named Micah and his wife. I don't remember his wife's name, but you guys were wonderful. I got an incredible deal on it. I paid $800 for it, and I got it with 2 miles on it. So it's a 2019 with 2 miles on it. And my understanding of how this came to be is this. Micah and his wife are young professionals, and they wanted like little commuter bikes, which is great. The bike is perfect for that. They went into a dealership in Simi Valley, which will remain nameless, even though I should tear them to shreds. I'm not going to. I would really, guys, oh my gosh, I'd love to tear you to shreds, but I'm not going to. They came into the showroom, saw the Boom 125. It's a really cool bike. It's very exciting. They bought it, and then the dealership delivered it to their house in LA. I think Micah might have been confused between the Boom 125 and the Amstar Nostalgia, because the Boom 125 has a full manual transmission, and that's not what he was looking for. I don't think he knew how to, run a clutch or something like that, but he wanted something fully automatic, which is fine. That's his journey, that's cool. So he got this bike and he didn't like it because you have to work a clutch and you have to shift, and it's a real mini motorcycle. It still had a 4-speed transmission, but it had all the functionality of a normal motorcycle's gearbox, which is what exactly I was looking for. It was great. It was a cool bike, man. I get there, I show up, he's super nice. I get a great deal on it, 800 bucks. I loved it. I bought it in deep LA. So I got on the bike. Immediately, you can feel a major power difference, because this is the exact same bike that I'm used to with a 49cc engine to a 125 engine in the frame of something that weighs like 200 pounds. It looks super cool. It's awesome. It's a great bike. However, on the ride back home, I had like a chain guard piece fly off on me, and then the next day my taillight stopped working, and then I have a whole video where I discuss all the issues that I had with this bike, and every time I would hop on this bike and drive it, something else would break. And this isn't, before you write in the comments, this isn't because it's a Chinese motorcycle. That is not, it didn't break the way it broke because it was a Chinese motorcycle. It broke the way it broke because the dealership didn't do any form of bolt check or anything like that. They just unboxed it from China and then threw it on the back of a truck and drove it to this guy's house. There's a lot of wonderful YouTubers like Moto Cheese who do these videos where they buy all these cool Chinese bikes, and you watch Moto Cheese's videos and they spend like 6 hours like bolt checking everything, tightening every spoke, like rejetting the carburetor, like so much work Moto Cheese and all his friends do on these bikes to get them running that a dealership should have done. My extent of working on motorcycles is all super bikes. So I know how to work on super bikes, and I know how to work on street bikes. I've never owned anything like the Amstar Nostalgia or the Boomcat 125. So I didn't know. This is why I'm glad I made these mistakes with smaller CC bikes. But they didn't do a bolt check on it, and they didn't do, like things weren't greased, things weren't, it was a nightmare. And my back hub ended up exploding inside my wheel and tore up my sprocket and tore up my biscuits and ruined everything, and I ended up breaking like 12 spokes on the back wheel, and like I broke so much stuff. Every single time I would ride this bike, something else would break. And as soon as I would get it to run, it would run for like half of a day, and then I'd be stranded. And it was a nightmare. And at the time, this bike had just come out. So there was no parts anywhere. You know, this bike shares a lot of parts with the Amstar Nostalgia, but the parts I needed were like specific to the Boom 125. Your boy has the hookups when it comes to Chinese parts and things that come out of China. And I tell you guys, I could not get my hands on the correct parts. And then so I'm on the phone with the dealership, arguing with the dealership. They say, that bike didn't come from our showroom. No way did that come from our showroom. Once I told him, you know, the problems that came with it. Classic guy from California. And then so I tell him like, yo, I have proof that I have the paperwork for this bike. I can tell you this came from your showroom. You know, he's trying to get out of it. And then so after like a month of being stranded in my house because I can't get anywhere, and this bike is now my primary form of transportation because I sold the Amstar Nostalgia, the right hub and all that stuff, and then it ended up taking 13 hours to get the right hub installed in the wheel, and it was an absolute nightmare. And then immediately the next day I ended up breaking like 12 spokes and almost getting run over. And like I almost got really hurt on that bike, and it was a nightmare. I ended up selling that bike to a really nice young man who loves it and put like, I believe a wheel from Kawasaki Ninja on the back and like rebuilt it and did cool stuff. But at the time, I just didn't want to deal with it. I wanted to wash my hands of it. And it was a really bad experience, but I wish that I still had that bike because I want to not have it be my primary form of transportation and be able to do things with it and modify it and stuff, because it's a really cool bike and I miss it. I just wish it went better. I ended up making a decent amount of profit on that bike, thanks to Micah being so wonderful, and that was really cool of him. Micah, if you're watching this, you're really awesome. But I ended up making a decent profit on that, and it was really good. But I wish my experience with the bike was better because I was really excited about the bike. It was a cool bike that I liked a lot. I would give the Boomcat 125 a gold star. It's a great bike if you buy it from a reputable dealer. If you buy it online, go over every single bolt. Follow one of Motor Cheese's videos, even if it's not exactly on the Boomcat 125. Just do everything Moto Cheese does when he gets a new bike. Just, you know, adapt to your new bike, and then the Boomcat 125 will be great. The engine is fantastic. The engine and the gearbox was wonderful. It's a great bike. That also runs a Honda GB engine, like it's a Zondag clone of that, but when someone says a clone engine, that means the patent got lifted a couple years ago from the GB engine, so now people are able to use that exact patent to manufacture the same engine and call it whatever they want. So when you hear, oh, it's a Honda clone, don't be like, oh man, you know, it's not the vape industry. Which 90% of the time, the RDA that's made by the manufacturer you love so much and the clone RDA is made by the same company. What? I don't care. Go ahead. What are you gonna do? Come at me, bro. On to my next motorcycle. This one's -2. Next bike is my 2004 Ninja 250R. Now this is my first, like, what is considered a real bike. This is a little bit more familiar to me because I mainly work on street bikes at my family's shop, but this is still older than anything I've worked on before. I've never worked on a carbureted bike until these bikes that I've had. Everything I've always worked on is fuel injected, and you know, you have throttle bodies, you don't have carburetors, so this is like, I'm way out of my element with these bikes. Picked this up from a dude in Koreatown who lived in this crazy house that it looked like it came out of a Diatward music video, but also the outside looked like the house from Fight Club. It was very strange, and I know Fight Club was filmed here, and I'm not sure, it might have been the same house. The bike had been crashed like 100 times, and it's had 12 owners, and it was all super beat. It's the entry-level Ninja that everybody has to learn how to ride a motorcycle properly. Or not properly, because that's how I rode it. Right off of the bat, let's see what went wrong with that. The taillight didn't work, and then I put on some cool headlights from my website, squid50.com, made a video about it. It was really cool. I was gonna make it look like one of my favorite motorcycles from San Andreas. I felt like that would be fitting because I'm here in GTA. San Andreas took place in 1992, and the body style of that Ninja was introduced in 87. So I wanted to make this one look like my favorite bike from San Andreas, which had the 2 lights and the dual exhaust, and I was really happy with how it looked, and I was super pumped on it. I put on these cool headlights and got them all good. They came from my website, so I made a cool promotional video about it. Those headlights are awesome, by the way, super bright, really cool, highly recommend them. But I did that, and then the problems with the bike immediately started right after I did that. I'm not sure if the stator and rectifier were about to go, or me putting aftermarket headlights was the catalyst for them about to go, but the stator and rectifier went on the bike, and it was really difficult to find a rectifier. And voltage regulator was easy to find, but it was really hard to find a rectifier and a stator for that bike, and then it was a nightmare. It was an absolute and utter nightmare to work on something that is so beat. The bike had so many owners that all of the bolts were stripped, all of them were mixed matched. Nothing made sense because it had been through so many first motorcycle owners that like everything was so half-assed that putting the stator in, and then the bolts on the rectifier that was in there were stripped, and then taking the bolts out of the rectifier, I had to bring it to a motorcycle shop, and then it was a nightmare, and I was stranded in my house for like a month, like trying to get this going. The carburetor was trash. And like after dealing with the stator and the rectifier and getting a new battery and getting a voltage regulator, I didn't want to put any more money into this bike. At this point, I had like paid the amount of money that I paid for the bike in just trying to get the bike to run. And I was breaking down, like I could go like a couple blocks and then it would break down, and then I would, you know, like rebuild the carb and rejet everything and get everything nice and good to go, and then it would be reliable, and then I would take it, you know, a little bit further, like I don't know, like 40 minutes down the street, and then you would break down like 10, 15 miles away. And then you have to take it all apart and try and figure it out. It leaked oil everywhere. It leaked oil everywhere, so I got some of that liquid steel putty and then just put it over the stator cover, and then I made like, you ever see like like you make a snake out of Play-Doh? It was like a gray snake made out of Play-Doh just around the stator cover, and it would just dump oil. It would dump oil on the headers, and so it would just smoke like crazy, you know, like, and then whatever, you just kind of, you just send it, and then you like check the oil, you know, every day, and you know, you come out in the morning in your garage and there's a puddle of oil under the bike, and you just throw down a t-shirt and wipe it up, and then you go about your day, see if it needs any more. I just kept the spare thing of oil in my backpack and just was like, whatever, this is how it is. So puke oil everywhere. I finally got the electric system working the way it was supposed to. I got the bike actually pretty reliable, somewhat, considering that our best gas we can get here in California is 91. So that's not very good gas. And our gas is very oily. Like if you put your fingers in like a thing of gasoline from here, it's just very oily, and it doesn't feel like the way gasoline should feel. As opposed to, you know, plenty of gas I've had spilled all over myself back east. You know, that's a lot thinner, and it actually feels like fuel. It doesn't feel like kitchen oil. I don't know, it's weird. The gas here is weird. And so running a carbureted bike that's already extremely problematic and falling apart with the 91 octane we have here, and it's puking out oil everywhere, and like you're afraid to just like drive it down the block, I don't want to deal with it anymore. I ended up selling the bike to a father and son who, for some godforsaken reason, decided to take the bike like the day after buying it from me, completely knowing all of the problems that I had told them about, 100% knowing all the problems, and they proceeded to try and drive it to Las Vegas from LA. Just desert double ride all the way through the desert. Two full-grown men on a 250 that's puking oil everywhere, try and desert ride it, and then they call me all mad because they broke down in the middle of the desert, and they're like, "You sold us garbage," and I'm like, "What?" What? The next bike I had was a 2005, a year newer Ninja 250R as well, which I got for $400. That's definitely not good. Okay. I got it for $400. Dude, I smashed the deal with that. Oh, I forgot to say about the old Ninja. I got the old Ninja for, I can't remember how much I paid for it, but I definitely lost money. I can guarantee you right there, I definitely lost money, and it was a nightmare. And rumor has it, those guys are still stranded in the desert somewhere. I got the 2005 Black Ninja for $400. Bought it from a really nice family in Compton. I guess the young man who owned it got arrested on it, and it got impounded, and then the family was like, "We don't ride motorcycles," and they needed to sell it the day before Christmas Eve or something like that. And the family was all concerned about me driving in the cold, and I was like, I'm from New Hampshire, and they're like, "Oh, but it's like 56 degrees out right now," and I was like, "But I'm from New Hampshire." Anyways, so the bike was cool. There was a lot I liked about it, and there was a lot I didn't like about it. It was hideous. It had these like weird Nickelback dad tribal tattoo graphics on it that were super ugly. The exhaust system on it was fantastic though. It was very loud and had a really nice tone for a 250. It was surprisingly sounded really good, and it also shot flames. The bike wasn't the California model, so it didn't have the emission stuff on it, so you were able to shoot flames, and it was really cool. If you're unfamiliar, a lot of the bikes that are from California have this thing called a charcoal filter, which limits you from doing cool stuff like that. Because my last Ninja was based upon my favorite bike. Shut up! Because my last Ninja was based upon my favorite bike from San Andreas, I wanted to base this Ninja on my favorite bike from Vice City. So I decided to keep the fairings on and kind of do my best to make it look like the street bike from Vice City, the PCJ 600? Was it a 600, the PCJ? I can't remember. Anyways, it kind of looked like that. I didn't keep the bike long enough to make it cooler. I was gonna make it really cool. There isn't really too much to say about it other than the exhaust sounded really good, and it had these weird handlebar riser things, so you would sit more up and less like a street bike for some reason. I'm not sure who would want that, but apparently people like that. It was cool. It had a set of Pirellis that were all dry rotted, and it was an okay bike. It had been crashed on both sides. It felt like it was gonna fall apart. It felt super rickety and awful, but you know, whatever. I definitely drove that bike too fast. For how beat that was, I definitely drove that bike way too fast. I had the bike for 3 days, and it was such a breath of fresh air, you know, dealing with all the problems I had with my last Ninja, and before that, the Boomcat 125. It was such a breath of fresh air that I forgot to put gas in it. And I drove my girlfriend home, And then on the way back to San Pedro, I ran out of gas. And then, you know, like, it's fine. I was like a mile away from the gas station. It was an inconvenience, but it wasn't too big of a deal. So I pushed my bike to the gas station and I fill it up with gas. And then I'm trying to get some, you know, fuel through the system. And so I'm at this gas pump and there's a family at this gas pump behind me. And I fill it up and try and get some fuel through the system. You know, I start it up and then it's like, you know, like trying to get fuel through. And I noticed that it's not starting up and there's like some problems, and it would go for a couple seconds and then sputter out, and then go for a couple seconds and then sputter out. So I'm like really concerned. It doesn't sound right. Something's wrong. So I start it up and then I'm trying to rev it up a little bit, right? It's late at night at a gas station. Like, there's not a lot of people, but there happens to be one family behind me at this huge gas station. And then so the guy pumping gas is this dude that he's wearing like one of those slick leather jackets. He's all like got like a toothpick in the mouth, skinny mustache, and he's all like turfed up. And he comes over to me and he like gets in my face and starts screaming at me. And I'm like, what? And he's like, we got kids back here, man. You're gonna annihilate us with the fumes. You're gonna kill my kids with the fumes. And he's like screaming at me. And I'm like, what? and he's like losing his mind about me like trying to get my bike started and revving it a little bit. And I'm not like redlining it or anything. I'm just trying to figure out what's wrong. And the guy starts losing his mind and screaming at me like he's gonna beat me up or something. And I was like, for real, dude? Like, I legitimately have no idea what you're mad about right this second. Like, I have an older carbureted bike and something's wrong with it, and I'm trying to get fuel through the system because something is wrong and I need to get home. And then he's like freaking out. And then his wife and kids are in the car and the wife's screaming at them. And then she's like, I'm gonna leave you here. I'm gonna leave you here. And then so she left him there. And then this dude's all in my face. And then so I put my kickstand down and then I start to get tough back. And because I'm like legitimately confused. And then I was like, oh, well, I mean, we're gonna throw hands. And then his wife drove back around and she like screamed at him to get in the car. And then he randomly like changed his whole tone, and then he took all kinds of money out of his pocket and then like started putting money in my face and tried to give me money because he yelled at me, but he only had like $4 in his hand. And I said, I don't want your money, like, get away from me. And it was really weird. And then so they drive off and they were super, super rude. And that was so weird. And so I finally get the bike started. I drive it home. It's running terrible. And so I park it in my garage. The next morning, I was gonna drive to the skate park and film some videos. And I make it like 8 miles down the street, and the bike dies. And it turns out that there was like tons of sand and sediment in the bottom of the tank, and the entire fuel system, all the way, even in the cylinders, was filled with sand. Like, the whole thing was filled with sand. I was fortunate enough to break down right in front of Sean Church's tuning shop. If you're unfamiliar with Sean Church, he's a really well-known vehicle tuner. Shout out, Sean, thank you very much. He let me use all of his tools and take apart my bike there, and he was super nice, and his staff was super helpful. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the bike running in time because there was gasket sealer on the carb after we cleaned out the carb and did everything. And so one of his techs threw my bike in the back of the pickup truck, and then we drove it home. And then yeah, I got the bike running from there, and it was good to go. And it now runs great, and it has found a new home. Nice young man drives it as his primary form of transportation, I think, and he loves it a lot. I ended up making a profit on that, but it was a major headache. So my rating of Ninja 250Rs is: don't buy one in California. Don't buy a carbureted bike in California where we have really awful gas. Unless you want to constantly clean out your carburetor and constantly work on your bike, don't buy a carbureted bike in California. Which brings me to the bike I have right now. So I sold the Black Ninja. It was okay, whatever. The dude who liked it really liked it a lot. Within the next 24 hours, I purchased the bike that I am driving right now. Right now, I'm running a 2014 Ninja 300. Now, I explained this story in my release video of the bike, but I picked this up from East LA from a really nice guy named Jesus. Shouts out Jesus, super cool dude. Unfortunately, Jesus crashed. He crashed into the back of a SUV or something like that. Minor damage to the bike, but that kind of put him off from riding. I don't think he got too badly hurt. He's okay. Anyways, so the bike had been sitting for like 3 or 4 months in his backyard. You know, I saw the bike looked really rough at the time. Really, really rough. I mean, it still looks rough, but like it looked really rough when I got there. And so we tried to start it. It ran for a couple seconds and then it died. Because I thought it was a spark issue, but then we deducted that it was a fueling issue. And I didn't have any tools with me. He didn't have any tools because he always takes his bike to the shop. And I said, well, can we take the bike to the shop? And he says, yeah. So me and him and his cousin pick up the bike and put it in the back of his like Tahoe or his Suburban or something. And we go to the shop and the guy says, oh, the tank's all filled with water from sitting out in the rain. And I go, well, yeah, that makes sense, because I figured there was either a vacuum leak in the fuel system or something wasn't right. You know, we had deducted everything. There was plenty of spark. There was plenty of air. You know, nothing was clogged. And, you know, the last deduction would be some sort of fuel or some kind of computer issue somewhere. He was really cool, and he paid for the technician to work on the bike. And I picked the bike up for $1,000. And it's been fantastic. You know, it does have a couple quirks from being in a crash. It tank slaps as soon as you let go of the bars. It will tank slap on you, and it needed a couple things. It needed a little electrical work done, but that was no problem. You know, I got that all done, and then I've just kind of gotten used to the little bit of tank slap. I'm gonna do more work on it coming up. I cut off just all the bent metal and stuff, and then put on a cool aftermarket like Jeep off-road headlight. And I absolutely love this bike. It's my favorite bike that I've had so far. It's my girlfriend's favorite bike that I've had. She enjoys riding on it so much more than any of the other bikes we've had. The passenger seat is significantly higher, so she's very small, so it's hard for her to get on, so I'll have to like pull up to a curb to make it easier for her. But that's my favorite bike that I've owned and her favorite bike that I've owned. Would I recommend the Ninja 300? Ninja 300 is a good bike. Buy a smaller bike to start with, or buy whatever you want, just as long as you're being safe. Let me know down in the comments below what your motorcycle history is like. I want to know all your bikes that you've had and your ratings. Let me know your thoughts about it down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Make sure to click over to squid50.com and pick up all your motorcycle parts, and we have literally everything over on Squid50. I do all of the listings and run that website completely alone, so if there's anything I can carry for you, let me know and I'll get it on there for the best possible price I can. Also, if you're a vapor, click over to budgetvapors.com and get some of my favorite juices for 15% off, which you can get 120 milliliters of juice for $8.49, and it's really good stuff. I also have my own juice line over there. It's really good. If you enjoyed it, I'll see you guys on the next one. If you need any studio work done, get at me down in the email address below. I'd be happy to work with you, and I will see you guys soon. Be safe out there and stay sunny, San Pedro. Don't get the coronavirus.